30-minute fight on a 80-pound amberjack. And then they want to release it, and we're trying to revive it. It won't go down. And then the bridge stops. Traffic's bumper. I didn't think I'd ever get here in time.
Well, we're glad you're here.
I'm glad I'm here, too.
Yeah. I was getting a little worried, though, because when Trista said that, I guess you were out of range. When she said she couldn't get you either. That's why I called you. I was like, oh, I hope he's okay.
Yeah, because he's like, he didn't answer. I was like, oh, he didn't answer me either. So now we got an issue.
Yep. Are we rolling?
If I say I'm going to be somewhere,
we are?
You're always
I'll be there, or at least let somebody know if it's possible.
All right. So we're glad you made it. All right. So I got my work cut out for me on this episode. Just simply introducing everybody. I think.
Want me to solve it? It's really a problem. This is Papa's Pilar.
Right. That is Papa's.
As
Pilar.
long as you got enough of this, nothing else matters.
Right.
All right.
End of introduction.
And that's the point of the show, right? So you texted me like, "Hey, what's the topic today?" I almost gave you one of these emojis.
Yeah.
Right. Because there's never a topic.
Right.
It's all just the life, right? So listen. Welcome everybody to the Connected by Water podcast, powered by Joey Carty Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, and fueled by our very good friends at Papa's Pilar Rum, who remind you never to be a spectator. I'm your host, Dennis Friel. In today's episode, we are with the Papa's crew.
Here.
All right, so
here's the
let's raise them up.
Papas.
Let's raise them up. So I'm going to go around the room. I'm going to introduce everybody, right? And I'm going to try to do my best here. We will first and foremost, we have Carlene at the bar. So, hello, Carlene, right? And sitting up at the bar with Carlene is the wonderful and lovely Trista Evans, right? And Debbie Anderson's back there, right?
There
Hello.
she is.
Right? She's not mic'd up, but she's with us here for the long haul. And at the table, right, we have our good friend Steve Groth, right, who is the chief Indian over there at Papa's Pilar Rum.
Yeah,
right?
I'll take Indian.
Yeah,
that works.
Right?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Right? And Karl Anderson. I mean, listen, I don't know if you haven't watched the podcast ever before, you know what I mean. You got to know who Karl Anderson is, right? He's a regular on the show. He's a very dear friend of mine, and also happens to be a legend as well. So
I have to say something else about Carl.
So Bouncer's apparently going to introduce himself.
No, I wanted to say something about Carl. I follow a lot of social media. That's why I know what's biting. Carl does the most and the most first class Papa's Pilar
Advertising.
100% he does.
Plugs.
Anybody does. I mean, just first class all the way.
The quintessential brand ambassador.
That's for
No
sure.
doubt about it.
Right? And
We're
last
honored.
and certainly not least,
Well, I'm definitely not the least.
the great one.
The one and only.
The one and only
Bouncer
Bouncer Smith.
Why are you picking on me?
I'm not picking on
You
you.
said
I just
I
gave
was
you a
the
glorious.
greatest.
I just gave you a
Just
glorious introduction.
Just because I wear bigger clothes doesn't mean I'm the greatest.
You know,
No. The most wonderful.
Bouncer serves on our IGFA Legendary Captain and Crew Committee, and he brings so much to the table. Everyone knows Bouncer's a great fisherman, but Bouncer's also an incredible historian, and he knows the people that really made things happen. And I love when he gets into that mode of telling us this guy, that guy, this guy, this is where this started. You know, it just puts a whole nother light on people that that I didn't know. And anyway, there's way more to Bouncer than just catching fish. He's a hell of a guy.
That's for sure. I mean, I
Hell of a
fished with
guy.
him Sunday, and
Yeah.
I mean, it was.
Well, did you? I as far as I understood, he hooked all the fish, and you might have had a little.
He reeled
situation.
them.
Okay. All right.
That's far from true. The guy is the world's greatest bass fisherman.
We can't make
And-
Dennis
and
cry
rod
right
hog,
off the
from
bat.
what I
We
hear.
He
gotta
caught
wait
the
till at least
same
the halfway
bass
point.
7 times.
It was. Yeah. I told you they started calling me Bass. You call like 7 bass. He started calling me Bassmaster. I'm like, they call me Little Bassmaster because they're all like a pound.
They weren't
each.
calling you the bass hole?
No, they weren't calling me the bass hole.
Pain in the bass. Yeah,
No.
right.
No, but anyway, it was really a pleasure fishing with him, and it was just because the nonstop, just pleasurable stories that we were just telling all day long. It was truly just an enjoyable event.
Have you ever fished with Bill Lepre?
I have not.
He is pretty much a Florida native. I don't remember if he's a full native or not.
Bill?
His uncle was a guide at Bud and Mary's. His father was a guide at Bud and Mary's.
Wow.
He was somehow
Yeah, he-
owned the Ken K at
he's a
one
native.
point. after Ken Doubles had
Right.
had sold it to somebody else, or his father owned it, one or the other. But at any rate, he's such a personable guy, and he's done everything, blue marlin fishing, and he decided it was to settle down. It's time to take care of being a father and a family man. And he had grown up on Lake Ida, which is Lake Worth area.
Yep.
And he'd grown up on Lake Ida with a 13-foot Boston whaler type of program, And he bought a mullet boat, a Carolina skiff that was a mullet boat. Had
Console forward, the whole
console forward, the
24
net
footer.
board on the side of the outboard, rollers across the
Rollers.
bow.
Yeah.
All that. But at any rate, he converted it to a freshwater fishing boat. I can't call it a bass boat because he's clown knife fish.
And there's no
he's
there's no
peacocks
carpet on the
and-
walls.
What's that?
No carpet on the walls. A
No.
bass boat has to have carpet on
Yeah.
No,
it.
that's what
Yeah.
you got a point there. Yeah, and the floor, don't
It
forget.
sparkles
Yeah,
in
the
the paint.
floor. Yeah.
But at any rate, the guy is just such a pleasure to fish with.
Huh.
Yeah, it was a really great experience.
It looked
did
great.
such
Your,
a
your,
great job.
your posts were excellent, and that is something I'd love to go do. That's a neat.
We should go.
It's so easy on the
detail.
knees too.
Compared to what
nice
you and
thing.
I've been doing, it sure as hell is.
Before we get too deep into our conversations, right, and this might segue into some of the things that we want to talk about, we have to announce our do-gooder of the week. So working with Starbright, we do our do-gooder of the week, right? This is someone who's a good steward of the environment, good steward of our coastline, someone who's involved in coastal cleanups and inspiring people to do such. His name is Jeffrey Hewitt. He lives in, I believe, Orlando. And he is a husband and a father and the owner of a roof business in Orlando. He's a very watery guy. He lives on Lake Conway, and he owns a home in Summerlin Key. And he's big on keeping waters clean and protecting wildlife. Right. So Corey Redwine had nominated him to be the do-gooder of the week. So
Corey,
congratulations, Jeff. You are going to take yourself home the do-gooder Starbright bucket of clean and environmentally good, friendly products. So
Where's the bucket this week?
the bucket is right here. Right here. So, Reggae Sponge and the Salt Off and the Citrus Cleaner and all the boat wash and all the good stuff that comes. There's about $200 worth of stuff in here that he will be receiving.
And environmentally safe products.
All of them. Yep.
They've done an unbelievable. We talked about this
Fantastic.
last time I was on the show. That they've done an unbelievable job in developing those products that are not, invasive and harmful. Because for years we cleaned our boats with all kinds of stuff just to make them look good that weren't good for anything.
They weren't even good for our boats.
No, they weren't.
I used to think that Comet
Oh,
and Clorox were the best thing I could use on a
Yeah.
boat.
no way.
Kills
junk
Greg
up.
Dornauer, who's like an executive vice president or whatever, of Starbright says, "Do you know that stuff eats gel coat?
Absolutely, it does.
Whereas these products don't."
Yeah.
And rust stains, waterline stains, that rust stain remover, and they're gone right now. It's unbelievable.
It is
stuff.
unbelievable, and they invested a ton of money to do it. They had to. They had to
But
invest so much.
What's really great, Peter couldn't understand why Greg got hooked up with Corey. And there is no better ad campaign in the world than Corey Redwine.
100%.
Yeah.
She is such a sweetheart.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought
Have
that
you
up.
met her,
she's the
Steve?
reason
No,
that
I
we're
haven't.
doing all this. Yeah,
Yeah.
with Corey
Right.
and Derek. And,
Yeah.
and
Her work with the plastic stuff is incredible. If you follow her on Instagram and,
Yep.
and follow Derek and all, I mean, what they're doing is like,
Oh, the
wow.
clams, the
Yeah, it's
mangroves,
incredible.
the
Yeah.
clean up the beaches, clean up the waterways, the do-gooders now.
Yeah.
And turn
awesome.
it into something.
Yeah.
She's not just throwing it away. She's making art.
Oh,
doing things
yeah,
with it.
I
I
know.
mean, it's incredible.
I went to their house, and their whole section of their backyard is Clorox bottles cut off and flower pots, and every one of them's got a mangrove tree growing in it.
Oh, that's awesome.
And when they get established, she goes out and plants them on the waterfront.
That's awesome.
That's
Yeah.
killer.
So, shout out to our do-gooder of the week. And it's definitely all because of Corey and Derek coming to me and saying, hey, because we're all friends and we're all in that circle. And, it's nice to
And thanks
able
Starbright
to-
for sponsoring that
Yeah,
and doing that.
And thanks for Starbright for
Yeah,
getting
no
involved
doubt.
in all that. So,
Yeah.
which kind of segues me into the people in this room here that you text me say, hey, what's the topic today? And we generally don't have a topic.
Right.
Well, we
on
ought
the
to
show,
make
right?
him the next topic if you.
Well,
don't
that's what we're
mind
going to do.
saying
That's what we're going to do.
Oh,
so,
geez.
so,
Good.
so,
Put the spotlight
so the
on
whole
me.
thing
Well,
is,
let's go. I'm ready.
No, I think
what got me thinking, I'm like, well, I said, well, I'd like to let's talk about in light of the hurricane that just happened, in light of all the reef initiatives that we have going on, and the different things that we're doing. And then Trista's here too, and she had a lot to do with all the recovery for Hurricane Dorian, and we had an episode. We did a whole episode with her and Tom on that. And,
That was heroic.
So I love having her in the room, especially for this conversation, because everyone here is a do-gooder, and we're really trying to make a difference.
Well, there's more. There's levels of do-goodism.
No. I mean, in this room, though.
Yeah.
In this room, you know. And so I want to talk. Hopefully, we can talk about some of the reef stuff today.
Sure.
And some of the inspiring things that we're embarking on there. I'd like to talk about some of the recovery efforts that the status of where we're at with the shirt drive, with the and everything. And I'm not talking about what I did. I'm talking about what you guys did to step up to the plate to support what we're doing, and we
were just the icing on the cake.
Yeah,
you were
but,
the cake.
But here's my point, though, on that is like, for whatever reason, I did this for Dorian and do it for I did. I don't know why. You feel like you need to do something.
I know why you did it.
Why?
Because you're a damn good man.
Well,
exactly.
Thank you. But listen, I don't want to turn into that kind of party, but
well, you asked why. I told you why.
No, I appreciate you saying that, though, Bouncer. But what I want to say, like, when you're doing that, you can feel very isolated sometimes and feel like you're putting all the weight on your own shoulders. And the fact that you didn't allow me to do that alone, it just speaks volumes of who you guys are.
For sure.
And why we are so in love with the relationship that we have with you guys. And we're so proud to be supported by you and with the sponsorship of the show. And I wanted to put that on record in front of your face on the show and just say thank you to Stephen Groth.
And many other
always being
efforts
there to
supporting
support
our
Connected by
community.
Water.
If you
100%.
call it the larger community
Well, that's
of
nice.
sport fishing.
We're honored
So
by the
it's
association. I mean,
really
I think it's a
appreciated.
two-way street.
Yeah, good.
But for us and for you guys, for just about all of us, it comes pretty natural for our team.
Mm-hmm.
It's having a business that has a purpose that's over and above just chasing cash is just unites the whole team behind the purpose. And then the business stuff takes care of itself, because if you drive yourself into the community, you become part of a community, and then you become part of the world community. And then for us, we just look for ways that we think that we can do the best, take the path of least resistance and the most impact. And sometimes we're uniquely qualified to do that, and we just lead. Sometimes we just follow, and we just support with cash, and sometimes we just get out of the way. But that's really, our business started on the back of that. We had I had another business before this, and it was a bourbon called Angel's Envy Bourbon that we did, and it was really a hobby, that turned into a business, and we were ready to just do a one and done with it. But then the Hemingway family came to us and said, we really like what you did there, and we'd like you to do something with us. And we like the Hemingways, but it didn't really grab us by the throat until they said, but we want to give all the money to conservation and literacy charities. And then we said, okay, now this is cool. Not only do we get to hang around with Ernest Hemingway's only living son, which is awesome, but it's synced up with, what we really are all about. And then your team starts to build behind that mission. And then it sounds weird, but the product that you're selling becomes just integral. It's conservation and doing good is just baked into your business model. And as I said, it just becomes the reason why our people get up every day. And you can feel it, and then it becomes contagious. And that's the reason why I think it's the same with your businesses and you as people. That's the reason why we gravitate towards each other, because it just feels natural.
Yeah, I agree. Someone brought that up too recently about Connected by Water, and it seems that as the years go on with our business, the line gets blurred. Well, are you an art studio, or are you a clean water activist? I think I was called recently. Like, what is it? And I said, well, okay. I said yes.
Right.
Well, they're connected by water.
Yeah, right. We're connected by water. There's a reason that it's not Dennis Friel Art Studios. There's a reason that it's Connected by Water is the name of the business. So we didn't want to define it such as just, I guess, you want to, you look back at the legacy of your artwork and the design work and the relationships that you build over time. And I wanted to put some intrinsic meaning to it and some value and some purpose to what we do here at the studio, rather than just keeping the lights on and paying the bills and making cool artwork. You know what I mean? It's there's value to me intrinsically for that, and that's what I get out of it. So
Well, plus the fishing community in general, everyone's connected by water. So with you doing all of the fishing art, all of the fishermen respect the water because they're out there more than anyone. So it kind of goes full circle,
Yeah. I mean, it just makes sense. It just makes a lot of sense to us, And and then I'm sitting next to a guy that's just, I have to say, the ultimate steward of all this, right? I mean,
Yep.
For over the decades, you've just been the biggest steward of South Florida and conservation and just taking care of where you play, and
100%.
and you inspire me. You have for years through all
heck of a compliment.
For being who you are and the efforts that you've made over time. And it's an honor to call you a friend now, quite frankly.
Well, it's certainly an honor to call you a friend.
Well, thank you.
It's an honor to have this room full of friends.
Yeah, it truly is.
Yep.
It truly
And
is.
speaking of friends, before we overlook it, and we've been talking about Papa's Pilar, I want us all to take a hats off to Mike Myatt,
Amen.
who couldn't be here today for
Yep.
family reasons, but
That's where it's went up to.
God, he does so much for all of us in fishing as well.
Best guy on earth.
He's a good man.
I was telling Karl there was a guy that lived on the island that I live on in the Keys, on Duck Key, and he ran the marina there. And when he passed away, everybody got around and they started telling stories. But the one thing that hit me when I was talking about him was that all roads led through him. And Myatt seems like he's that guy. Every relationship, every cause, everything. He's the crossroads of everybody.
The liaison of
That's
everything.
true. We're definitely feeling in the room that he's not here today.
Right.
And
That is
for sure.
Our industry is really unique in a way, and Bouncer certainly knows this, but I see so many new people come in and come out. I've been doing this a long time, since I was 12, 13 years old. I was growing up, and
He's been doing it 20 years now.
around companies that were intrinsic in the kind of like boat builders, the Leak family and all. And I was around all them, and I realized very quickly, and my dad told me this, is he was a mate on boats and everything, and ran boats, and he said, look, the best thing you're going to learn is your people skills and learn how to do this, but it's all about relationships. Our business is so based on relationships. Everything we do is who can you help, who can you go to, who can help you. I mean, it's all give and take, but it's all about relationships. And I see so many people come in and these companies come in and they're going to do this and do that, and they have this corporate mentality that they don't understand relationships, or they don't think that they need them, because we have the best era. We don't need relationships, man. Without relationships in this business, you got nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. And you've built great relationships at Hooker, right? I mean, you have the core of the world. Bouncer, our clientele, your clientele that you fished forever, and just what you're doing with your art, everything. Papa's Pilar coming in and doing it. It's all, and that's how we're here. Without that, you got nothing.
I agree 100%. I still remember going to the boat show, 8-9 years ago, and passing out the Papas, and they're like, "What is Papas?" I'm like, "It's the best rum out there."
Oh yeah,
Right?
And that was
you are earliest adopters.
Yes,
It
and
was
they're
so
like,
awesome.
"We've never heard of this." And then after 2 or 3 shows, we're like, "Go to Hooker; they have free rum." And I'm like, "Oh, that's
Hookers and rum.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
it's
mean-
like
Hookers and
Building
rum, imagine that.
relationships.
Gee,
drop the mic.
Could be
Yeah.
on radio here."
there's a novel idea.
But yeah, it's definitely about the relationships, and it's a core for all fishing and boating industry alike.
Yeah.
And that's the main thing. You building a business, which we have for the past 11 years, and I'm very appreciative. I love everyone in the community, and basically, if without those people, we wouldn't be here. And no matter what, we help fix issues, even if it's not our issue, but we're there to help, because it's a lot easier just to help someone than to ignore it.
Sure.
So we've learned that over the years, because everybody, there's problems in anything, and if you can just get through the issue, then you're going to be way more ahead than you were before.
And if you ignore
sorry.
the issue, then emotion comes in, and you got a real big issue.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You got to grind through. It is
Yeah.
what it is, and deal with it.
I want to mention something about Hooker Electric, which is electric reels, and now it's even more into electric pumps and portable bait tubes and everything else. But I was kind of I think that was during COVID when Dorian hit, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I was kind of living in a vacuum at that time. And I couldn't believe later on what I found out that Hooker Electric and Tom and Trista had done for the Bahama Islands. I mean, it blew my mind what had gone on that I wasn't even aware of.
Right, it's like 2 or 3 airplane trips a day.
We took over the Hangar 9 over at the Pompano Beach Airport. Well, the FXE actually a little bit of both, but Hangar 9 was the main one, and we would run 36 flights a day between the pilots. But Tom ran 3 a day.
It's like a military operation.
It was intense.
That's an airlift.
Yeah,
we
you
did
were
an
limited.
entire. I brought her and Tom in, and we did an entire episode on this because I'm like, I want like the world to know like everything you guys did, because I don't think everyone really got the whole grasp of their effort and what they did. It was monumental.
That's where I learned so much about it. It was on your podcast.
Yeah.
You know, I've noticed one thing about these Papa's Pilar glasses you're using now.
They're
They have a
small.
hole in the bottom.
They're small.
This used to be full.
There's an evaporation issue, I think.
Evaporation.
It is.
Years now.
Is that caused by the alcohol or the diet?
And the ceiling fan. If you turn it down, I think you're good.
I know who's going to fix that problem real quick.
Boy, oh boy, here
She's
she comes.
probably going to pour the ice down the back of my shirt.
Best bartender in town.
All right, listen. I want to go back to something that we were talking about earlier. Because you and I went fishing this weekend.
Yes, we did. And what a great time.
And it was really a great time. And our goal was to target the clown knife fish, right? And success.
Yes.
Right? We caught this fish, right? But so tell me the story about how this thing was caught again. I want to. I may not understand completely how everything went down.
Okay, well, the layout, we're on this 27-foot flat bottom, doesn't rock, stable as a rock boat. And I'm fishing off the port stern. And you're fishing in the middle of the starboard side.
Right.
And I get picked up, and my line immediately goes around the back of the motor, and I can't get up, and I can't get my line clear of the motor. So I'm hollering, grab this rod, and give me your rod, and we're going. And this fish runs out behind the boat now in the clear and jumps. And it's the biggest clown knife fish I've ever seen. And he won't give me back my rod. He says, this is the greatest fight I've had in ages.
And you kept asking
Look
him
at this fish.
for the rod back,
Look at it swimming backwards.
Right.
Wow, isn't this beautiful?
Swimming backwards.
Well, they do.
I know.
They do swim backwards.
And he wouldn't give me back my rod. Well, the fact of the matter was, now he was up in the starboard bow where I can't even take videotape.
No, see, now you're touching on it, right? Because as I recall it, right after it jumped, you started saying, don't reel it in yet. I need to get my video up on my phone. That's how I remember it.
I want to get the jump shots because they're so beautiful.
Make them jump again. Right?
Bouncer going
All I know is
somebody should film you guys filming the fish.
Yeah.
I was not in a position to properly fight the fish, and I called upon your assistance, and you did a yeoman's job.
Thank you.
Of fighting that fish, catching 75 largemouth bass that were under 12 inches long, and the only needlefish
and
ever
don't forget
caught.
My peacock bass was half a pound too.
And the only needlefish ever
I
caught
needlefish
in Lake Ida.
And I grabbed it, which was a big mistake.
And wasn't your hybrid kind of small too?
Yeah, my hybrid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything I caught was except for the clown was small fish.
Well, you were the hero already.
Yeah, low bass man.
It's like the guy said. They said it only takes one good fish to make the day.
Yeah.
5 minutes later, they caught an 18-pound mutton snapper trolling in 20 feet of water on a planer, and the guy turned around and says, "The day's made. We don't have to worry."
I'm good.
What a fight, too.
Wow.
You know, there's nothing like a big mutton snapper in shallow water.
Yeah.
That's my favorite fish to catch, honestly. The
Mutton?
muttons. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I know a guy that's got a house over in the islands that really cooks a lot of muttons and groupers.
That's our favorite.
Yeah, I know.
I want to talk a little bit about the Papa's Pilar team in general, right? And I think that this really is what outlines. This is the game changer for the company. I really think is the people that you've surrounded yourself with, Steve, are all monumental people, are all just cool, and salt of the earth, true grit kind of guys and girls, and it speaks to the definition of the company. It follows through the tradition of the Hemingway brand and the name, and it keeps the Hemingway tradition alive for sure. But not only that, like everyone in this community, they're all good stewards, I think, and they're all good stewards not only just of the sport, but of the conservation efforts, and and I just wanted to add that in there. I think that's one of the more attractive things about Papa's Pilar, is that I know it is for me, that when I became into the fold of it all, that's the part that impressed me. Is like, man, and I started pointing around at I'm like, wow, that's impressive.
That's nice.
Just to be associated with it, with everyone that's on that whole team.
So the way this started out was, it wasn't really a serious business. It was just a club of people that hung out together.
Yeah, it's cool.
And we made stuff that we really liked, and if other people liked it, that'd be great. But all the group of people within the Aqua Mafia that we have assembled is they're all friends. It was people that were just buddies that gravitated towards our people and our brand, and then we hung out together. And I don't think we ever recruited anyone to be part of the program. Mm-hmm. And it was just, hey, listen, that's just another friend that seems interested. People like Castronovo, Paul. Paul was, my sister worked with him in radio on his first radio job in University of Florida.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
So she trained him, and Paul will probably
say otherwise.
Say otherwise. Anyway, they were good friends, still are. But I had lost contact with him for 30 years, and then he just showed up on my dock in Duck Key with Scott Walker and said, "We're going fishing." So we went fishing on my boat, and we hung out for probably 3 years. He's drinking Pilar and having fun, and then he told a friend of mine, a guy that worked with us, he goes, "Why does Steve ask me to help out with the brand?" And I said, "Well, it just never occurred to me. We're just buddies, and that's really how every one of these stories came together. It was more just buddies hanging out, and if it was natural to talk about stuff, it was great. But it was mostly, as I said, it was more directed towards a lifestyle and a passion and then a purpose, and that's where everybody, and then Mike Myatt, he was at IGFA, and we had done some work with them, and he just gravitated into the circle of friends. And then as the group became bigger, Mike came on board to be the head of conservation in our community stuff, just to organize this, merry band of misfits that we had, and that's that's how we did it, and that's how we're going to do it. I don't care how big the brand gets; it's all just going to be friends.
Who could be a better leader of misfits than Mike Fay?
True story.
Yeah,
true story.
But I appreciate that you that feels good to you guys.
Well, it's the truth, I mean, that's how. Just like you explained it, that's how it happened with us. I mean, we started the podcast for God knows whatever reason. There really was no reason to do it.
Right.
I remember when Harris came in, when we went from Dennis Real Art Studios, or DFAS we used to call it, and Harris just were hanging out, and he wanted to kind of get involved with what I was doing. So it's like, all right, well, let's just scrap that and let's just start a new company. We had no name for the new company, and he's like, well, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I don't know. I want to start a podcast. He's like, oh, yeah, what's a podcast? And I kind of explained it to him.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, why do you want to do that? I'm like, I really don't know. Other than the fact of when we were in Coral Springs at the time, way out west, and people were driving out to see us, like, I was impressed that people were actually coming out to see us out there all the time. But when people came out to see us, they wanted to get their money's worth. So they'd just, like, talk my ear off for, like, a good half hour or an hour before driving back out east again. And I said, man, I should really just record some of these conversations, because there's some really good heavy hitters coming out to see me. And that was it. I just wanted to hang out, and and about 5 episodes in, I thought it was a good idea to just start drinking rum on the show, because why not? It was Monday morning. We used to record them on Monday mornings, for crying out loud. Right. And I was getting some bottles of rum from the tournaments I was fishing, and because you guys were involved in that circle, so it was always Papa's Pilar rum on the table, and that's how I fell in love with that, and then I'm a big Hemingway fan to begin with anyway, and so it all just happened like very organically, and then all of a sudden I just get a call from Myatt. He's like, "Hey, you're drinking my rum on the show all the time." It's like, because I got an idea for
and
you.
that Godfather kind of thing.
Yeah.
Hey.
He goes, "You know what?
You know,
This
you know
is
why
what's
these
gonna
guys
happen.
really involved in
This is how it's going to go.
Dennis, I got a story to tell you.
Yeah.
You know why they talked his ear off out in Coral Springs? They were convinced that he would have their T-shirts ready in an hour.
Oh God,
They figured if they kept him busy for an hour, they could take their T-shirts with them.
you're talking to the wrong dude."
It says
We
it
had a
right
long
on
talk
the
about that
website,
on
2 to
Sunday.
3 weeks
The
for
sales cycle
delivery.
and the production cycle are two different things.
Yeah.
But we had a long talk about that on Sunday about how people visualize that their order's the only order.
Can you just whip something up real quick?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Can you
Get
just
that
whip it
later.
up for
Right.
me real
Yeah.
quick?
Or you already have something you
Yeah.
can use.
Can you just do that?
Yeah.
Real quick.
Just
No.
fishy
No.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
You know,
I'm
you
kinda
know
like
that
an
one with the
artist.
fish in it?
Yeah.
I want that one.
Yeah.
You draw fish every day. You
Can't
gotta
you-
have some fish. I
can't
can
you
use.
put
Can
a
you do it this
92
way,
foot?
though, please?
Can't you put a 92-foot sport fish and a Jody Accardi Jeep in that picture with that wahoo and take it with me in a T-shirt?
Yeah, I probably could.
Okay.
Probably could. Yeah. Before the show's over, we'll have that done.
Oh, that's awesome.
You know,
And-
you know the common theme in all this.
Tell me.
Well,
I've been trying to figure it out here.
I mean, who doesn't like rum?
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah. right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's a
mean,
good-
you
it's a
know,
good
like,
point.
and then when you get a good rum, right? Like, I mean,
It lubricates the
it's
conversations.
absolutely.
Right?
Oh, most
Well, there's
definitely.
plenty of lubrication going on here. This is the last
Lubrication is
last
always
time
good.
we were here, let's go a little.
You have to have the lube.
We got over lubed. Anyway, it's you know, you have to have a good product, right? And in art, in fishing, right? What we do, I mean, you know, if you're not making the effort to have the best product that you think you can have, pumps, right? Whatever we're doing in this business, I mean, you have to go that extra step. And I mean, you know,
The product is only as good as the people behind it.
amen.
Yeah.
And you know,
That's
it starts in the barrel, I guess. You know what I mean? In the distillery and everything, and then the presentation. You know, the whole thing, and you know, I was telling Steve earlier about, you know, Deb, we were going through Europe and everything, and I did this whole deal about, you know, drinking with Hemingway's Ghost. You know, I want to go hit the pubs that Hemingway drank at, and that was like, I was like, you know, it was my little joke, and we were at, you know, Harry's bar in Paris. You know, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, I'm here. I'm where it's
Did you have
at.
a Bellini?
You know, no, I probably had rum.
Yeah.
You know, probably rum. But I just think that it all comes down to whatever we do, right? We're all working very hard to do the best we can, and in what we do as life and conservation, whatever. But we all have rum.
Yeah, and to the point of what you said about, you know, the quality factor and the first class factor of it all, you know, and it kind of speaks to that's what it takes to make a difference in the world of preservation and conservation and restoration. Quite frankly, is where we're kind of at with a lot of the reef initiatives.
Yeah.
That are going on. What are we down to 2%, 1 point something
Yeah,
percent,
2 to 5.
2 to 5,
Yeah.
right? Which is pretty shitty.
Yeah, and it
Right.
came through the stony tissue coral loss disease, wiped out a lot of it. There's a lot of contributing factors, but it ran through, you know, the southern half of the United States like wildfire in like 3 years, and so it was devastating. And you know, I grew up just like everyone here, just on the reefs, and for us, that was an area where we felt like we had a unique ability to kind of have some position in that business, and try to, either from our business point of view or just in the DNA of all the watermen that work with us and work for us and work around us, to kind of like unpack that a little bit and try to figure out, you know, how we can take a completely different industry and maybe a different audience than a lot of the reef restoration, you know, donors and the you know, that ecosystem, and try to point some of that towards, you know, what I call the path of least resistance and highest impact. And so when you really start to get deep into it, and I'm, compared to the scientists and researchers, I'm a scale from 1 to 10, I'm a 0.5, but I know enough to be a little more than dangerous in a lot of this stuff. But if you start looking at the things that can be done to bring the reef back here in the Keys and in southern Florida, and then use that model to port it to other places around the world, it could be one of the most inspiring and optimistic preservation efforts in the history of preservation. Because you really can, and a lot of it has to do with, right now, the way we look at it is in 3 buckets. One is education and awareness. The other one is research and lobbying and permitting and so on to build and create and find heat and disease resistant corals, and then outplanting and getting reefs, fins and waters, so like boots on the ground, we call it fins and waters. And so those efforts, while none of them are the silver bullet, but there are ways that they're making a lot of headway in bringing big sections of reef back to life. And so what happens is when the reef dies, most people know that it can't spawn. And so everything is so dispersed that there's no way for any of the corals to get together and make new baby corals. And so the first thing that needs to happen is to get a lot of and this is just the world according to Steve, not by I don't have a PhD in it, but from what we've, where we think we're going to spend our time is to get these heat and disease resistant corals in the water so that there can be patches of reef that are much harder to kill and grow very fast. And there's some really crazy science that they've stumbled on over the last, less than a decade, where they can replant corals and they grow at more than 10 times the rate that they would do if they were just naturally planted. They frag them. So they'll plant corals that you'd think normally would take 20 years to grow, and they're almost to that size in 2 years.
Wow.
And it's like
phenomenal.
That's crazy.
And so if you think about it, that's all happening right now. It's the amount of success is beyond encouraging. It's like when you get scientists that are optimistic about the future of the environment, then you know that something's on the right track, because they're usually just like, and so that's really something that we're putting a lot of effort in. And, one of the things that the biggest challenge is nobody knows it. It's that's the reason why we're putting a lot of money into education and awareness through our social media, and then partnering with people with bigger media footprints and networks, and then a lot into outplanting to get tangible results in the water, and then take our, sort of a different group of people, which is in our kind of our aqua mafia, and the idea is we'll put our money in first, be first money into a lot of these things with a few groups, and then work together. We work with No Shoes Reefs, with Chesney's group and a few others to try and make it famous, make these efforts famous, and get consumers engaged, and whether it's planting or contributing, and then try to drive corporate dollars and federal funding in it. And this is just as an adjunct to all the great stuff that people, like some of the bigger groups of coral restoration are doing as well. But it's something that that we're really focused on for as long as I can breathe.
That's great.
Yeah, my personal mission is to see the Florida Keys reef system get back to 30 to 40% reef coverage, and at that point it becomes self-sustaining, that it can spawn, and then have a model that can be replicated around the world as these diseases and heat and so on and so forth are taking over some of these areas. And they're already moving all these models, but there's all the pieces are in place. There's not a lot of invention that needs to happen. It's just organization.
That's really great.
It's so inspiring to hear that. It really is. And we talked about it before, and really the efforts that you're making are
great. It's like
That's
such
a lot.
a structured
Sorry
plan.
to take over the conversation, but
No.
it's kind of
I wanted you to.
Well,
That's
I
great.
have to
You
share.
took the bait.
I have to share.
just like the knife fish. Right?
It's so structured.
I have to
That's great.
I have to share something that is so much connected by water. This is really great news, and we need some great news. I was listening to one of Dennis's podcasts the other night, and I heard some really sad news. And it was in conjunction with something that I was exposed to in Miami. But a sperm whale died in Key West and beached itself this summer. And they did a necropsy. And this biggest creature in the world, a sperm whale, not as big as a blue whale, but still a lot bigger than anything else out there, starved to death because its stomach was full of plastic.
Yeah.
And then he has the turtle man on.
Ben Hicks, photographer.
And
Ben
a
Hicks.
baby turtle starved or died because its stomach was full of plastic. And to hear some good news about the ocean, it's so refreshing. We have the grass problems, the pollution problems, the plastic problems, and to hear something and going in the right direction is so inspiring.
Yeah,
it was
is.
really
It's
something that
structured, too.
galvanized our company behind that is one of our sort of pillar efforts, and it really is. I mean, nothing's easy. It's going to take forever, but if you think about it, it's got all the elements of something that can really, where culture can be weaponized for good, because it's got a it's not like the sky is falling, global warming, you can never turn it around. It's the, Titanic. You can make a difference. You can go out and plant corals right now in the Keys. They train you, you go out and do it. And it's in all the dive shops, or not all the dive shops, but they're trying to daisy chain and certify the dive shops in the Keys to work with the growers and the researchers to plant coral. But then you can go and physically, plant coral and then track it and watch it grow. So it's got instant gratification. It's got a positive story. It's a great environmental impact. You can do it really on your own time. So it is really a great story, but so far it seems to be the best kept secret that I can see.
Two questions. Is it tied in with the coral that they're growing at Bud and Mary's?
Yeah. So I Care, the group that is the Stansics own that land, and they donated or leased that land to that coral nursery. And so the way it works is you got people like Moat Marine and other groups down there. They grow the corals, and they do all the research to figure out which ones are the best. And there's other groups. And then what they're doing is they just opened one in Key Largo. They have a staging area in Key Largo and in Isla Morada and in Key West. And then they'll start filling it in where dive shops can come with certified, operators to then pick that coral up and go plant it. So that's the idea, is to take all these pieces that are already there, all the coral growers, the dive shops, all the certifiers, all those people and the maintainers, and all just organize them. So yeah, that's like probably the most, that's probably the most advanced aspect of the system, is that that was the first nursery that was not attached to one of the big research facilities. And so now they're like plant nurseries that they're going to put throughout the Keys.
Really
Interesting.
Now, the other question I had was, I'm on a coral reef project, like a citizen advisory panel for Dade through Martin County.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been meeting for 3 years or something like that. We'll have our last meeting is next month, and none of this has ever been mentioned. Is there any printed material that I could get from you that I could share with them at their last meeting or before their meeting?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. There's a lot.
Well, I'd love to get something that I can present to them.
Yeah, we've done some stuff internally to train our staff, but then you have a lot of the groups like iCare and Moat and some of the other ones that have that, have those materials.
Well, I mean, this is just a citizen advisory panel to tell the politicians what we think would help the reefs. And nothing's ever come up about this super corals, for lack of a better description. It kind of ties in with some lessons that I got from Guy Harvey on, if you have 2 Nassau groupers, you only get the resistant to what they were naturally resistant to.
Yeah.
But if you have a school of 100 Nassau groupers and they all spawn together, this one's going to contribute pollution resistance. This one's going to create salinity problems. This guy's going to protect you from temperature problems, and you end up with a much healthier strain. And it sounds like that's what they're doing with the coral.
It's almost exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And Guy and his team, I mean, we've been working with the Ocean Foundation for a long time, and we probably give more money and resources to the Ocean Foundation than anyone, just because, we work so, closely together. Guy and his team have been friends for, forever. Mike's known Guy for 30 years. And so, so those guys are on the cutting edge as well. So
yeah, that's great, because basically, like, most of the fishermen, if they fish, they dive.
Right.
So, I mean, if that is a huge thing, if you're going to invite that into tackle shops and everything like that, that's something that people would like, because it's inviting. They can actually make a difference and track it. And I mean, that's huge.
And it's the least partisan thing I've ever seen. I've laid it on everyone, just waiting for somebody to, grab a pitchfork and stab me in the face. And so you got the divers and the fishermen. Sometimes they butt heads, right? Mm-hmm. They don't on this issue.
No,
you
won't.
got the right and the left politically. They don't butt heads on this issue at all.
No, they won't.
And this is where the whole connected by water idea was born from too. It's like, we do not view it as a partisan issue,
right?
And that's the beauty of it, in my mind. No one can argue with it.
Yeah, they both need the reef.
This is very southern water centric, but the same mentality works in the Northeast. It works in the Gulf, because we have an incredible amount of oyster reef restoration.
For sure,
happening. Yeah. Okay, so we're not only rebuilding oyster reef to help clean water and everything that is non-harvestable oyster reef, but we have an aquaculture and farming situation going on both on these coasts that is not only incredible business for the farmers, but it's also the water quality is improving dramatically. And as a side to that is we're building these reefs in cold water that are bringing life, bringing sponges, bringing from everything on up, to little shrimps, to snails, to you name it, eelgrasses, everything. And again, our greater world that we all love, is no matter where we are, we're on the water, and we want it to be healthy, and we want it to be great. And so this same mentality of how can we change and implement change to make it better, it's happening all over. You have to look for it, unfortunately, because it's not talked about a lot, but it is happening. And to me, I look at all that, and I think that what's going on up in the Northeast and what Steve's doing, Papa's is putting into this, it's all part of the same deal, man.
Yeah, you're getting to the source. You have to get to the source to rebuild.
Right? We all live on this water, and it's been good to me. So I want to be good to it, and I always have. I can remember, in the old days when I started on a charter fishing boat, guys would take a Coke can and crack it up, or a Pepsi can and throw it overboard. I'm like, no. And I started bringing bags and taking that. That was not cool to me. Mm-hmm. That just was not cool to me.
And some people don't get it. They're like, oh no, it just you throw it over. It's not that big of a deal. I'm like, but if you do that 10 times and then every single person does it, it is a big deal.
You know what you need is you're probably too young, Dennis, but remember the commercial where the Native American guy
in the river.
Yes.
Hello.
The crying
everybody
tears.
stopped throwing stuff out of their windows.
That's why I brought a trash bag and said, we're not throwing trash overboard anymore.
I mean, one day everybody was throwing Burger King bags out of the window. The next day it's like, no, that's not cool.
Yeah. Don't throw shit out the window.
Carl, educate me on something. You said non-harvestable oysters. Does that mean that they're designated as a reef that's not harvestable?
Correct. You cannot wild harvest. So in other words, that reef will be there and maintain and grow, because so they're deploying shell. It's going to follow the shell. So this program is a program started, where at least in my part of New Jersey, Angela Anderson started this thing, Follow the Shell, where they go and they gather the shells from restaurants. They put them on land, wash them, let them mature. Then they take the shells and they put it out in this aquaculture tubes, and they put spat on it. Spat is oyster seed.
Yeah.
It sets on rough surfaces. So you can either use cement or whatever, but oyster shells are great, right? Because it's a rough shell. Now they take spat set on shell and they disperse that over a big piece of bottom. Tons and tons of used shell that people already ate, right? We're recycling at its most epitome of recycling. Okay, and spread that out. Now we have spat on shell. We're growing oysters. Now those spat, they become mature. They start to put spat out. That sets, and we start to have colonies, right? And so this is like exponential. So now, and smartly, the oyster farmers have all supported this fact. Say, look, we can grow our oysters in a cage, and we can tumble them, and we can make a perfect cup, and we can serve you an oyster shell that is, we'll give you a dozen oysters that you can't believe, and this one's a little briny, this one's a little and they all have their little sweet flavors or whatever. They have everything. But those reefs that are not commercially viable, they're there to protect the water and everything. It's one of the most critical things we can do in our waterways, in inshore waterways where we don't have reefs like here in Florida and the Keys and everything. Those reefs are just as vitally important. They may not be floral and colorful and have all the tropical fish and everything,
but it's filtering the ocean.
Yeah, man.
It's literally
one
the
oyster
filter.
filters 50 gallons a day.
Yeah.
Right. Well, not only that, but just because the starfish and the gobies aren't as pretty as the parrotfish doesn't mean they don't feed the redfish or somebody.
Grass shrimp, little baby striped bass, porgies, all the things that come out of it are it's all part of everything. And my hat's off to those guys in the Northeast and in the Gulf that are taking this over. And commercial interests have done a lot of harm to things, but also there's some change, and the commercial interests are coming in and realizing, hey, we can not wild harvest, but we can help farm, and we can do other things to still have a viable income and make a living for our families. We're still working on the water, which we love, but we're not taking a piece of bottom and wiping it out and leaving nothing for anyone else.
Yeah, we're trying to learn more about it. There's a guy that works for Kenny Chesney, Brett Palmer, and he runs the No Shoes Reef Group. I've known Brett used to work for me. I've known him for 30 years, and he has been working forever on these efforts all over the country. And so we work a lot on the reef stuff together in South Florida. But he probably sends me 3 or 4, oyster projects in the Northeast, and we've decided to invest in a reef program with John McGinnis, the guy that owns the Floribama bar off of the Panhandle. So we're starting to kind of work our way up the coast as we learn more about it. But we're using Brett is he's been in up to his eyeballs in that stuff for a long time.
It's the same. We're talking the same language. It's just different water temperature, right? You know what I mean? In
Florida, our reward of it all is a healthy and flourishing reef, right?
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, it all starts with clean water, I think. And I think the health of the reefs right now have a lot to do with the water quality and the runoff and the different things that we've been experiencing.
Freshwater runoff is the biggest problem 100%. We have all the way around the United States.
Whether it's too much or not enough, either one.
Well, I mean, we have more shoreline in the United States. And you think about all the bays that, Cape Cod. We think about, New York Harbor and Atlantic, the Hudson River. Then you go down to Delaware Bay, Chesapeake Bay. These are all foundation grounds for spawning and growing all sorts of biomass and all kinds of fish. Then we go up into the Gulf. The Gulf of Mexico is the largest breeding ground for pelagic species that we know. It's bigger than the Med. Swordfish, white marlin. Scientists go out at night and scoop larvae, and they call it pelagic soup because it has everything in it.
What I found amazing was yellowfin tunas will come all the way from Africa, but they go into the Gulf of Mexico. The scientists say they never leave the Gulf of Mexico.
Wow, we didn't know that.
It's such a viable area for them that once a yellowfin tuna goes into the Gulf of Mexico, it never leaves.
There's a pod of sperm whales that are resident Gulf of Mexico sperm whales. They don't leave.
So the runoff issue. There's it's funny because the lifetime activists like Jackson Brown, he actually came up with an album called Downhill from Everywhere or from Anywhere, and it's a song, and it basically it basically says the ocean is downhill from everywhere, and so that's you have to take care of it.
We all live downstream.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Interesting thing though, just to mention from what Karl was saying, it's a whole cycle, because if we have healthy bay grass and we have healthy oyster bars and we have healthy reefs, They all, the oysters and the clams and the grass, they're all filters. Given the opportunity, they will clean the environment. They'll clean the water.
So there's some crazy stats. The one that most people quote is that every second breath you take comes from the ocean. Which is a true statistic. It creates so much half the oxygen on the planet. The reefs are the rainforests of the ocean. 1 out of every 4 saltwater species in the world started somewhere on the reef. Were associated. They got their start on a reef someplace. So all these it's just not an afterthought.
Yeah.
No, it's all a circle.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
It's all
Well,
connected.
I mean, the point I was trying to bring up earlier too is this. When I was saying speaking from a Florida perspective, right, and a little bit more myopic than global,
Sure.
but it's a really good sample size and cross section of everything that we're talking about, just because we're so eco-rich here in all aspects of it, right, from cradle to grave. I don't want to diminish the fact that you're doing great works on the reef and everything, but it's a fight that happens on multiple fronts here, especially in our state, and I think that's why we're so important with this, and why we've basically dedicated practically every conversation on this show to this topic, because I want to just drill it home. We live on a river. The entire state is just one big river, and it outflows out into these reefs, and these reefs are basically the jewels on the end of our fingers.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
And the Gulf Stream's a giant river.
Yeah, it absolutely, and it's important that we do take care of it, we do steward it correctly, and we do keep it on our lines, because if we do all this work, like you're saying, to bring it up to 30 to 40%, it's just so vitally important that we keep that water clean so it can stay that way.
Right.
And it's just so important to keep all the plastic out of the water, and it's so important to keep didn't we say that they did a scientific study recently where they find traces of Roundup on the reef?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
And it's just like, why?
No,
Right.
it's more amazing than that. They've been doing a study in Dade County and Broward County for the last couple of years. They go out on the reef and they catch a fish, and it's got birth control chemicals
Yeah.
and blue pill chemicals
Yeah.
and
And its teeth
blood
are
pressure
perfect because
medicine.
there's Crest toothpaste in his teeth.
Mm-hmm.
It's unbelievable.
I'm being sarcastic.
It's-
No, but
yeah.
But it's unreal how everything goes
Flushes
downstream.
to the
they're
ocean.
really
Unbelievable.
worried about birth control medication influencing the fish on the reefs.
That's crazy. That's absolutely insane. Listen, I think the work that you're doing, or you're embarking on even, because I think it's really, you're just like scratching the surface of what you're about to get into.
Right.
And all the things that you guys are doing. And dare I say we're doing, because we're right behind you 100% on it as well.
Oh yeah.
It's just so vitally important to the future of this state. We often talk about Florida being the final frontier. We talked about this on the boat the other day, right? Florida's the final frontier of the continental United States, because we weren't habitable, or like we were inhabitable for the longest time. Like there's until the invention of air conditioning, and Henry Flagler put a
The
railroad down
country's
here.
200 years
There's
old.
so many mosquitoes, and there's no foundation to build on. I mean, everyone's already settling out in Seattle before they're coming down to Florida.
The country's over 200 years old, and the state is 100 years old.
But we got here
Who
quick.
wants to live on a salty marsh?
I want to mention
But we
one other
got here
thing
quick.
that you keep bringing up, though, how important Florida is. Florida's probably, maybe Texas, but Florida's probably the only other state that has a coral reef environment, a mangrove tree environment, and a spartina grass environment.
Yeah.
Every other state is either spartina grass
Yeah.
or rocky shoreline or something. Florida
Yeah.
has so many diversified
Yeah.
environments. It's really amazing.
Hey, and it speaks to the species. I mean, what other state can you go? You can go offshore, catch a mutton, a mahi, an amberjack, sailfish, billfish, whatever, and then come inshore and catch a bass and a clown knife,
And a
and,
peacock.
right, and all in the same day, and and a tarpon and the snook, and those estuarian species.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, those species, I think, speak to what you just talked about,
Yeah,
because the animal they're going to respond to the environment. And,
sure.
and it's we've made it our mission here on this show to really discuss this. Now we goof off every now and then, we really do. But we like to have a good time, and we should.
Almost every time I've been here, we've discussed how important it is for us to be stewards of what we do, and for us to be able to be successful in what we do, we have to be a steward of our environment, and not like wacky, but we have to at least be aware of it, and whether you're telling people, look, man, you're at a birthday party, and go, don't let those balloons up.
Oh my gosh!
Oh, the Mylar balloons. Yeah, don't get me started.
Or single-use plastic. Hey, man, can we just let's not buy that case of water. Everybody bring your bottle. Let's and let's use the water maker bottle. I mean, it all comes together.
That's been one of my pet programs. I've been trying to find a company to sponsor canned water.
Yeah,
there's a few companies around that offer canned water.
And
Liquid
box.
Death is one of them.
Cardboard box.
Liquid Death is one of them.
Death.
Believe it or not, it was a deal that came to me to do to get involved in.
Liquid Death.
They're going gangbusters. It's crazy.
I love it. Liquid Death.
Is that water?
It's water
My
in a
nephew
can.
drinks it all the time.
Yeah, it's water, and it's in
I didn't know that.
in Fresh Market or Whole Foods.
Oh wait, hey guys, I got to cut you off. We're getting a call from somebody.
I'm glad it's somebody.
And I missed the call because my ringer was down, but we're going to call him back real quick.
That is Friel, my brother.
I could not get to the phone in time, my friend. I'm sorry about that. My ringer was down.
By water. You know what? Is a rough day up here today, but you know what? I'm thinking about all these people that you have sitting down there. You have Steve, Carl, you, Bouncer, Charlie Levine.
Charlie
Shout
didn't
out
make
to
it.
you, bro.
Charlie didn't make it. Charlie got stuck on 95. There was a big accident. He couldn't make it.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oof. But Carlene, how are you, sweetie? I'm doing okay. Kids are good. You know what? I'm even attracted to your husband. I just want to say that right out of the gate.
He went full Joe Namath
Mike
on
is
us.
hot. Okay.
So
But
Not
not a great day down here, but I've got a few people coming in and out. It's casserole day. So, but I just want to call you guys and say, hey, connected by water. And you get Steve there. Steve, what's going on, brother?
Connected by Myatt.
Connected
Amen
by
to
Myatt.
that. No doubt about it.
Myatt.
Oh, you know what? When you're connected by Myatt, I think it's Irish Spring, the aloe version. Will get rid of a lot of that. If it doesn't, then you can go through a car wash, but it's not pleasant. The wax is the worst part about the car wash. That's all I know. But I just want to call you guys. I need a minute of levity, and everything that you did, Denny, as far as getting those shirts out and raising money, once again proves that we're at this point in the community. And Carl, Steve, bounce house. Look at you catching all those different fish.
Hey, I couldn't do it without Dennis. He rescued me the other day.
Dude, you couldn't do it without being retired. Because, well, actually, you could, because you did it before. But anyway, just want to give a shout out and much love, and I'll give you guys a holler later on. But have a great boat show, and miss you. Wish I was there. You don't know how much I wish I was there right now.
Mike, we talked about you. I texted you, obviously, before we started recording it, that we were talking about you and thinking about you, and I just wanted to send you that love to you. But I cannot begin to tell you how much it warms my heart that you actually just called in right now. It really, really does mean the world to me.
Well, I don't think there's a person at the table that if you haven't gone through it, you will go through it. And you watch the person on the other end be heroic. And just, what? The process is not great, but I think the outcome when decisions are made are. And, my admiration for my dad and anyone that's gone through it. Steve, I know you've gone through it. The other guys at the table, you probably have. I know that you did, Denny. But you know what? I think it's going to give me a better appreciation for every day hanging out and, everything you look at, carbon-based, oxygen-based, anything that needs air is probably going to pass. But when you can do it with dignity, hey, I'm all in. Actually, I'm not. You guys, do not unplug one freaking thing in that room. It looks like a phone charger. Keep it plugged in. Okay, I'm telling you right now. Exhaust every resource. I do not care if I am a mustard green. At least I'll be able to drink vinegar.
I got to tell you, Mike, I don't want to, spill the beans on anything, but we do have a hidden bottle of Marquesas for you, and that's going to be in your IV bag when that time comes. So,
oh my God. And you know what? Every single release from Papa's Pilar, Hemingway Rum Company, Mahalo Spirits, I've never really had in a proper, and Steve, you can attest this, like in a proper tasting glass. Because there's always been, hey, you need to try this. And this is what we're doing. Steve and I tried a little proper blend in his room at ICAST in a
red Solo
Dixie
cup?
No, it was like a Dixie cup. It was like a Dixie cup.
Yeah.
The best. And you know what? I'm so fortunate to be able to have the life I've lived and then be involved with everyone from Papa's Pilar. I mean, we are small, we are nimble, we are smart, and we do good stuff. And for you to celebrate us tonight, Danny, if I just picked up Maureen at the airport, so there's no more drinking for me this week. So if I was able to, I'd raise a glass. But I appreciate you guys so much, and, have a great show tonight. And sorry for taking up so much time, but just want to give you a shout out like I do. I missed a couple of weeks, but love you guys. Have a great time. Yeah. Everybody else, go to connectedbywater.com, dennisfriel.com. Use his code and buy some Papa's Pilar.
Yeah.
Please.
We love you, Mike.
He's shameless.
Is that shameless?
Yeah.
That's a little shameless, but it's cool, all right?
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate that, Mike. And listen, you take care of yourself,
you
and obviously, it goes without saying, if you need anything, we're a phone call away, all of us.
You know what? That's why we're family. We're connected by water. We're Papa would be proud. We're never a spectator, and we're tight. And because we get it. And you know what? It's easy to live life. The only way you can have a friend is to be a friend. And everything else in life is basically empty. So keep doing what you're doing. And Carlene, pour all these guys like a shot, except for Steve. Pour Steve a Diet Pepsi, Diet Coke.
Pepsi from Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
Pepsi. You guys, we're a Pepsi shop. Eat at Taco Bell. But anyway, love you guys. You guys have a great night, okay?
All right. See you, Mike.
All right, Mike. Love you.
All right. Love you guys, too.
All right.
Later on.
Bye.
Later. Well,
dude, when you...
Did you hear me, Carl?
That's Mike.
Mike, we always say around the team that Mike can put a visit on you.
He can put a visit on you. He's from Bangor, Maine, He's got a lot to say up there. He goes up there. He goes over Bangor, Maine.
Yeah.
Mike's great, man.
He's amazing.
I love him to pieces.
He's a maniac.
Right? Yeah. Well, shit, when you said he went full Namath, I almost lost it. Oh, God love him. Yeah, he's going through a tough time.
His heart is huge, and he always looks to the better side of things. He really does. No matter what's going on, he tries.
So my son went to. He had this idea when we were launching Pilar that it should be associated with IGFA, and because it was Hemingway was the first and only vice president of IGFA.
That's right.
So he just took it on his mission to go cold call him, and so he just he's the taller, better looking, smarter version of me. So
This is true. This is
Thank
true.
you very much.
Yeah. So he goes in there, he just makes friends with the receptionist, and next thing you know, we got a meeting. And I didn't even know what I was going to, and so next thing you know, they got the IGFA people, and it turns into a presentation on the brand. And, we have all our facts straight about, because we knew it from Hemingway. He said, so let's try the rum. I said, oh, we don't have any rum. We hadn't even made it yet. It's like, that's just secondary. And so Mike said, I'll just take this myself. And he really did. He said, I think this is going to be awesome. But when he talks about, trying product and various vessels, that was one that was a vapor vessel. There was nothing, so I usually give them a dog bowl or something to try our new product.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Listen, tonight has been fantastic. It really has been, and it's. I want to close with this, okay? And I'm glad that Mike called when he did, because in my mind, it's perfect timing for this. It's just because it leads me into it. I'm proud, really, to be associated with the Papa's crew, really, and I think that I probably mentioned it already in this episode, in this discussion, but it's true, and I wanted to drive that point home. It's really been a game changer for me in the past couple of years. Not only just for the show, but just for everything else that we have going on, and the camaraderie and the friendship and the love, and the work, because it's all positive and meaningful work, and that matters. And I just wanted to thank all you guys in the room, and Trista, thank you so much for being here, and coming. I know you had a lot going on, with the setting up for the boat show and everything like that. And Debbie, thanks for letting me have them all the time. You know what I mean? And just, they come and letting them hang out with me all the time. And Carlene, really, it means just the world to me that you're here all the time. And like,
Carlene's
and I want to give a shout out too to Carlene.
Yeah.
She spent all day here Friday stuffing shirts. Like
Hurricane.
I'm going to tell you, my legs from holding the baby while I was going up
she
and
brought
down.
the baby, everything.
I had to hold the baby, so I'm doing squats for a good 2 hours with a 16-pound baby in my hand. The next day, I'm like walking. We're at the poker run. I'm like, ooh, this is a little out of shape. Yeah. My husband's like, why do your legs hurt after leaving Dennis's? I'm like, listen.
Wouldn't you like to know?
It's a long story.
Oh man. Nick down there at the end of the bar, he was here stuffing shirts on Friday all day.
Oh wow.
And this is, it's what we do, and it's
Hey, we dropped, how many boxes did we drop off at the United States?
we had
Post Office
18 full-size shirt boxes stuffed with
United States
pre-labeled
Post Office
shirts.
Needs to pick up their game a little bit. They were supposed to pick them up here,
yeah.
and they didn't pick them up.
Yeah.
And this is a company that doesn't run so well. But anyway, the United States Post Office could have done a better job, but you prevailed. You said, I'm going to take charge of this, and we're going to take them over there. And you called me, and I said, dude, I'll come help you. And I didn't do anything.
Hey, I offered to help.
I didn't do a thing.
I said, you need to bring boxes of shirts down from up the coast. I can carry 2 boxes.
Anyway, we took this truckload of and we got it done. And the folks at the post office were quite nice, and
they were nice when we got there. They said to me, they're like, well, you got to bring it around back, and they go, well, don't be aggressive when you get back there, because there's a bunch of mail carriers loading their trucks. So like, if someone's not moving, don't.
Yeah.
And
You have to wait.
I said, listen, you guys didn't show up last night to come get the pickup that I had scheduled 2 days in advance, right? If I haven't gotten aggressive by now, don't worry about it. I said, I'm not an aggressive individual to begin with, so don't worry, we'll be cool. So, but listen, just going around the room. Yanni, thank you for everything you do at the show, right? And Carl, thank you for coming all the time. Steve, thank you for being you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Thank you
Steve, for
so much,
providing all the
Steve.
Papa's Pilar.
Yeah.
You've made all of our lives so much better.
It's always amazing.
It's an honor.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to end with Bouncer.
You couldn't even get me when I was on the phone the other day.
Oh, man. He's trying to do a preemptive strike here. See that?
Right.
I love you, man.
Only as much as I love you.
Yeah. I really got so much out of fishing with the other day, and it really was just a monumental experience. But I just say everything, every day, every conversation with you is a monumental experience.
Well, I appreciate it.
And
the feeling's mutual.
Yeah, so thank you for continually giving us your time here, And,
it's my honor,
yeah.
believe me. Thanks for
and,
allowing me.
Yeah, and just thank you. So,
at any given time,
that
guy will tell you what he's caught in a day, and it's a litany of fish that any of us would be our most best day ever. And he did it for 40 years, 50 years. I don't know how long, but I can tell you this. From the time I was a little guy and I heard Bouncer Smith's name and knew what was going on and kind of got figured out and everything, and I've told the story before about when Bouncer first came up and I kind of figured out who Bouncer was. That guy is an icon in our industry. He's always stood up for everything that is right. He's never compromised himself, and all I can say is that I'm so honored to be at the table with Bouncer Smith. He's a fishing hero, and better yet, he's the person that most young kids really ought to look up to because he's done everything that means something in our industry.
Yeah, and I tell you, all the legend stuff you could put to the side because just the person he is outweighs all of it.
100%.
Let's take it easy now, guys.
100%.
No, it's true, and I can tell you the moment. It really hit home with me was this past Sunday. We went out. We were sitting at the table. He came for a podcast last week. We were sitting there. We were talking about the clown knife, and I had never caught one. Before I ended my conversation, he was already dialing the phone, right, making it happen. And he did. He made it happen. And I caught that clown knife, and I was on the deck, like, then that thing hit the deck. And I was like, like that.
You should never dance.
And I looked. I
did.
Unless it's St. Patrick's Day, we're perfect.
Dude, you have no rhythm.
Did you see what AB did to me today?
No.
Hold on. And as happy as I thought I was, I look over at Bouncer and I look in his face, the fact that we got that, mission accomplished. He was happier than I was. And that defined the whole thing for me.
Yeah.
So good. So tell me about AB. And then we're going to end it here. This is the last story of the show.
AB's son is 2.5. So I go over to his house yesterday. I picked up some seafood, took it over for dinner. And the kid and I'm riding my cane like it's a riding horse. And the kid's got a stick with a horse's head on it, like kids have. And we're galloping around the house. And AB posted on Instagram.
That is so good.
Now your version of galloping and AB's kid's version of galloping are two different things.
Very much so. When I gallop, the walls shake.
And there's a speed variation.
Oh, yeah.
Is it possible to get an entire sherry cask stuck in your throat? I think that's what happened to me.
All right,
listen. If you're in the market for a new truck or vehicle, contact our good friends over there at Joey Carty Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. They'll hook you up if you say, you walk in there and you say, I heard about your dealership on the Connected by Water podcast. You're going to get a better deal than anyone else. Technically, you don't think that's true, but I think if you give it a shot, because it might work, right? So I don't know. But what I do know is true, right? That we have been drinking Papa's Pilar rum all evening,
you have,
right? And as we always say, that we are just very proud to be part of the Papa's Pilar family. If we haven't said it 1,000 times tonight, we are going to say it one more time. There's a new edition that just came out. Top secret?
No, it's
all over social media.
It's already pre-sold.
Social media did it again.
So, Steve, tell us about the new edition here.
It's a legacy edition that we're doing in conjunction with Guy Harvey. Mm-hmm. It's our dark rum that's finished in apple brandy casks. It's awesome rum, and it has a purpose to it as well. So not only every year we try to marry legacies, the legacy of Hemingway with and some other legacy. So this year it's the legacy. It's the 70th anniversary of Old Man in the Sea.
Old Man in the Sea.
And Guy Harvey started his artistic career as painting Old Man in the Sea.
His series was iconic, and his T-shirt series was iconic.
Yeah. So what we did is just teamed up to do to create a purpose around it. And so $20 a bottle from that goes to reef restoration.
Wow.
And then we did something a little different this year, which is just, I don't even think it's been announced, which is there's a very cool augmented reality.
They did announce it last week.
Oh, did they?
On social media, yep.
Did we, So, it basically, you point your phone at the bottle and it comes alive. It's got sort of an animation and a narration of Old Man of the Sea, the marlin, and
what is this now?
It's a
techie thing.
Yeah, it's a techie thing.
Yeah.
So if you took the bottle like this and you point your phone at it, it just comes alive into a story.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Like the
Yeah.
So please.
Kind of like Dennis does. When you point a phone at Dennis, he goes,
oh my God, he becomes such
I do my clown knife dance.
He holds his arms out longer, so his fish will be bigger.
Oh.
But anyway, so we're proud of that, and it's we put it on sale first day. Sold 1,000 bottles, and we only have a very we wish we could make more because it's selling out immediately.
Nice, awesome.
Still some left.
Limited release.
Very limited. It's funny because there's always these guys that say limited release, and then you see it like a month later and it's still limited, and then 6 months later it's like last bottles, and then 3.5 years later it's like, no, this was actually a limited release. Wow, that's a nice fish.
You want to see it?
Sure.
Too bad.
All right, cool. Oh yeah, look at that.
Can't you hold it in front of the camera so the audience can see
there's
it?
my clown knife.
That's so good.
All right. And then a couple last things I want to mention. I want to thank our partners at Starbright and Become a Do-Gooder. We're talking about the W sauce.
Sauce.
Cannot forget about the W sauce. I want to feature the Fire Shire here, right, and the Vegan Shire, and it is America's Worcestershire. So go on and buy yourself some of that. I talked to my buddy Brad, who's partnered up with Bear and Burton's, W sauce. And I said, what are we calling this stuff? Like, was it Worcestershire, or what do you want, like barbecue sauce? He goes, it's not a barbecue sauce. I'm like, well, what am I going to tell people what it is? He goes, it's magic effing cooking sauce. Is pretty much what he says. So I said, all right, well, there you go. And it's damn good.
It's damn good.
Pick that up for yourselves. And also, if you're hungry and then you're in the neighborhood and you don't want to make your own food with the W sauce, head on over to Papa's Raw Bar. Order something off the Connected by Water inspired sushi menu, where there is a plethora of the most amazing sushi in all Broward County. On that
plethora.
I love that place.
Yeah.
A plethora.
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
is. Yeah, they do a great job.
So that's it. Thank you, everybody. Trista, Carlene, Debbie,
Amazing.
Nick, Yanni, Bouncer, Carl, and Steve. Dennis, me. Thank you very
Amazing.
much.
Thanks, Dennis. Thank you. It's an honor.
Yeah, no, appreciate it.
It sure is an honor.
Great job.
Your
As
ego is not your
Your
amigo.
amigo.
Right? Always do your best. At the end of the day, just let God do the rest. And do not ever forget that no matter where we are, no matter what we're doing, we're all
Connected by water.
Thank you.
Let's have a rum.
Whoop, whoop.
She threw